The Outsiders by S.E. Hinton. Chapter 1. When I walked into the bright sunlight from the darkness of the movie house, I had only two things on my mind: Paul Newman and a ride home. I was wishing I looked like Paul Newman. He looks tough and I don't, but I guess my own looks aren't so bad. I have light brown, almost red hair and greenish gray eyes. I mistake because of the fact the pony boy made some mistakes. And it's okay if you make mistakes. Remember that. I wish that they were more gray, because I hate most guys that have green eyes. But I have to be content with what I have. My hair is longer than a lot of boys wear theirs, squared off in the back and long in the front and the sides. But I'm a greaser. Most of my neighborhood rarely bothers to get a haircut. Besides, I look better with long hair. I had a long walk home and no company, but I usually loaned it anyway, for no reason except that I like to watch movies undisturbed so I can get into them and live them with the actors. When I see a movie with someone that's kind of uncontrollable, like having someone read your book over your shoulder, I'm different that way. I mean, my second oldest brother, Soda, who is 16 going on 17, never cracks a book at all, and my oldest brother, Daryl, who we call Darry, works too long and hard to be interested in a story or a drawing or a picture. So I'm not like them. And nobody in our gang digs movies and books the way I do. For a while there, I thought I was the only person in the world that did. So I loaned it. Soda tries to understand, at least, which is more than Darry does, but then Soda is different from anybody. He understands everything, almost. Like, he's never hollering at me all the time the way Darry is, or treating me as if I was 6 instead of 14. I love Soda more than I've ever loved anyone, even Mom and Dad. He's always happy-go-lucky and grinning, while Darry's hard and firm and rarely grins at all, but then Darry's gone through a lot in his 20 years, growing up too fast. Soda Pop will never grow up at all. I don't know which way is the best. I'll find out one of these days. Anyways, I went on walking home thinking about the movie and then suddenly wishing I had some company. Greasers can't walk alone too much or they'll get jumped. Or somebody will come by and you scream, "Greaser!" at them. Which doesn't make you feel too hot, if you know what I mean. We get jumped by the Socias. I'm not sure how you spell it, but it's the abbreviation for the socials, the jet set, the West Side kids. It's like the term greaser, which is used to class all us boys on the East Side. We're poorer than the Socias and the middle class. I reckon we're wilder, too. Not like the Socias who jump greasers and wreck houses and throw beer blasts for kicks and get editorials in the paper for being a public disgrace one day and an asset to society the next. Greasers are almost like hoods. We steal things and drive old souped-up cars and hold up gas stations and have gang fight once in a while. I don't mean I do things like that. Darry'll kill me if I ever got in trouble with the police. Since Mom and Dad were killed in an auto wreck, the three of us gotta stay together only as long as we behave. So Soda and I stay out of trouble as much as we can, and we're careful not to get caught when we can't. I only mean that most greasers do things like that. Just like we have our hair long and dress in blue jeans and t-shirts, or leave our shirt tails out and wear leather jackets and tennis shoes or boots. I'm not saying that either Socias or greasers are better. It's just the way things are. I could have waited to go into the movies until Darry or Soda Pop got off work. They would have gone with me, or driven me there, or walked along. Although Soda just can't sit still enough to enjoy a movie and they bore Darry to death. Darry thinks his life is enough without inspecting other people's. Or I could have gotten one of the gang to come along, one of the four boys Darry and Soda and I have grown up with and consider family. We're almost as close as brothers. When you grow up in a tight-knit neighborhood like ours, you get to know each other real well. If I had thought about it, I could have called Darry and he would have come by on his way home or picked me up or Two-Bit Matthews, one of our gang, would have come to get me with his car if I had asked him. But sometimes I just don't use my head. It drives my brother Darry nuts when I do stuff like that, because I'm supposed to be smart. I make good grades, and I have a high IQ and everything, but I don't use my head. Besides, I like walking. I about decided I didn't like it so much, though, when I spotted that red Corvair trailing me. It was almost 2 blocks from home then, so I started walking a little faster. It never been jumped, but I had seen Johnny after 4 Socs got a hold of him, and it wasn't pretty. Johnny was scared of his own shadow after that. Johnny was 16 then. I knew it wasn't me. Oh, I'm sorry. I knew it wasn't any use, though. The fast walking, I mean. Even before the Corvair pulled up beside me and 5 Socs got out, I got pretty scared. I'm kind of small for 14, even though I have a good build, and those guys are bigger than me. I automatically hitched my thumbs in my jeans and slouched, wondering if I could get away, if I could make a break for it. I remembered Johnny, his face all cut up and bruised, and remembered how he had cried when we found him, half conscious in the corner lot. Johnny had it awful rough at home. It took a lot to make him cry. I was sweating something fierce, although I was cold. I could feel my palms getting clammy and the perspiration running to my back. I get like that when I'm real scared. I glanced around for a pop bottle or a stick or something. Steve Randall, Soda's best buddy, had once held off 4 guys with a busted pop bottle, but there was nothing. So I stood there like a bump on a log while they surrounded me. I don't use my head. They walked around slowly, silently, smiling. "Hey, Grease," one said in an overly friendly voice. "We're gonna do you a favor, Greaser. We're gonna cut all that long, greasy hair off." He had on a Madras shirt. I can still see it. Blue Madras. One of them laughed, then cussed me out in a low voice. I couldn't think of anything to say. There just isn't a whole lot you can say while waiting to get mugged, so I kept my mouth shut. "Need a haircut, Greaser?" The medium-sized blonde pulled a knife out of his back pocket and flipped the blade open. I finally thought of something to say. "No." I was backing up, away from the knife. Of course, I backed right into one of them, and they had me down in a second. They had my arms and legs pinned down, and one of them was sitting on my chest with his knees on my elbows, and if you don't think that hurts, you're crazy. It smelled English leather, shaving lotion, and stale tobacco. I wondered foolishly if I would ever suffocate before they did anything. I was so scared. I was scared so bad I was wishing I would. I fought to get loose, and almost did for a second, then they tightened up on me, and the one on my chest slugged me a couple of times. So I lay still, swearing at them between gasps. A blade was held against my throat. "How'd you like that haircut to begin just below the chin?" It occurred to me then that they could kill me. I went wild. I started screaming for Soda, Darry, anyone. Someone put his hand over my mouth, and I bit it as hard as I could, tasting blood running through my teeth. I heard a muttered curse and got slugged again. And then they were shuffling a handkerchief in my mouth. One of them kept saying, "Shut him up. Shut him up for Pete's sake. Shut him up." Then there were shouts and the pounding of feet, and the Socs jumped up and left me laying there, gasping. I laid there and wondered what in the world was happening. People were jumping over me and running by me, and I was too dazed to figure it out. Then someone had me under the armpits and was hauling me to my feet. It was Darry. "Are you all right, pony boy?" He was shaking me, and I wished he'd stopped. I was dizzy enough already. I could tell it was Darry, though, partially because of the voice, and partially because Darry's always rough with me without meaning to be. "I'm okay. Quit shaking me, Darry. I'm okay." Oh, he stopped instantly. "Oh, I'm sorry." He wasn't really. Darry is never really sorry for anything he does. It seems funny to me that he should look just exactly like my father and act exactly the opposite from him. My father was only 40 when he died, and he looked 25, and a lot of people thought Darry and Dad were brothers, instead of father and son, but they only looked alike. My father was never rough with anyone without meaning to be. Darry is 6'2", broad-shouldered and muscular. He has dark brown hair that kicks out in the front and a slight cowlick in the back, just like Dad's, but Darry's eyes are his own. These are the eyes that are like two pieces of pale blue-green ice. They've got a determined set to them, like the rest of them. He looks older than 20, though. Tough and cool and smart. He would be real handsome if his eyes weren't so cold. He doesn't understand anything that's not plain hard fact, but he uses his head. I sat down again, rubbing my cheek where I'd been slugged the most. Darry jammed his fists in his pockets. They didn't hurt you too bad, did they? They did. I was smart and naked and my chest was sore, and I was so nervous my hands were shaking and I wanted to start bawling, but you just can't say that to Darry. I'm okay. So the pop came loping back. By then I figured that all the noise I had heard was the gang coming to rescue me. He jumped down beside me, examining my head. Oh, you got cut up a little, huh, pony boy? I only looked at him blankly. I did? He pulled out a handkerchief, wet the end of it with his tongue, and pressed it gently against the side of my head. You're bleeding like a stuffed pig. I am? Look. He showed me the handkerchief, reddened as if by magic. Did they pull a blade on you? I remembered that voice. Need a haircut, greaser? The blade must have slipped while he was trying to shut me up. Yeah. Soda is handsomer than anyone else I know. Not like Darry. Soda's movie star kind of handsome. The kind that people stop on the street to watch go by. He's not as tall as Darry, and he's a little slimmer. He has a finely drawn, sensitive face that somehow manages to be reckless and thoughtful at the same time. For you at home, wondering why Mr. Delaney is reading this out loud, it does help to visualize. And two, I always think of Tom Hiddleston as Darry. I'm sorry, as Soda. He plays Loki. It's a thing. He's that dark gold hair that he combs back, long and silky and straight, and in the summer the sun bleaches it like a shining wheat gold. His eyes are dark brown, lively, dancing, recklessly laughing eyes that can be gentle and sympathetic one moment and blazing with anger the next. He has Dad's eyes. But Soda is one of a kind. He can get drunk in a drag race or dancing without even getting near alcohol. In our neighborhood, it's rare to find a kid who doesn't drink once in a while, but Soda never touches a drop. Doesn't need to. He gets drunk and just plain living, and he understands everybody. He looked at me a little more closely. I looked away hurriedly because, if you want to know the truth, I was starting to bawl. It means cry if you haven't figured that out. I knew I was as white as I felt, and I was shaking like a leaf. Soda just put his hand to my shoulder. Easy, pony boy. They ain't gonna hurt you no more. No, I said, but the ground began to blur, and I felt the hot tears streaming down my cheeks. I brushed them away impatiently. I'm just a little spooked, that's all. I drew a quivering breath and quit crying. You don't cry in front of Darry. Not unless you're hurt like Johnny had been that day we found him in the vacant lot. Compared to Johnny, I wasn't hurt at all. What must that kid have gone through? You already know Ponyboy has been cut with a knife by a bunch of people who were being terrible to him. What must Johnny have gone through? Soda rubbed my hair. You're an okay kid, Pony. I had to grin at him. Soda can make you grin no matter what. I guess it's because he's always grinning so much himself. You're crazy, Soda. Out of your mind. Darry looked as if he'd like to knock our heads together. You're both nuts. Soda merely cocked one eyebrow, a trick he'd picked up from Two-Bit. Seems to run in this family. Alright, this is going to be part 1. I'm going to stop right there. Not saying that you guys shouldn't finish the rest of the chapter. You should. It's your thing, but I'm going to record and stop where I'm at. Ponyboy gives us a lot of information in this first chapter. And what I'd like is for you to really look at the things that he glances over, the stuff that he doesn't say much about, but is very important. And you can tell it's important. It has to be, because he's mentioning it. So what does he just kind of say? And then he just leaves. Well, that's part one. You'll get a part two.